Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Two Raccoons in a Trench Coat podcast. I am your co host with the almost, some guy with a microphone, joined today by two very special individuals. Our first, which is our main host for this evening.
What's up, everyone? I'm some guy with a hat, and my notes tab on Google Documents just completely decided to update itself. So I have to scroll all the way back down. Thank you, Google. You never do anything wrong. Um, we are joined today for the first time with someone we've been trying to have on the podcast for a little bit now, and it is Tony. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today?
I think we're surviving. Some guy with a mic. I don't want to speak for yourself.
Um, yeah, I was doing pretty good. I just Googled it, and Google Stadia is no longer a thing.
Ooh.
Oh,
Remind for those of us in the audience who aren't particularly aware of what Google Stadia is, was, um, why don't you go ahead and remind everyone?
Google Stadia was a gaming concept where Google was going to buy they did buy a ton of like Xboxes, PlayStations, etc., and they let you play them remotely without ever having to actually own the game console itself. You just had to have like a controller for the console, and they would stream it directly like to your TV or your computer to let you play games kind of like GameFly, but directly to your home, which was a really cool service. Turns out it didn't work super well, especially for online matchmaking games, because netcode is one thing, but netcode strung between yourself and a third party and the main servers is a whole other bag of worms. Not even a can, just a bag, just a Costco-sized bag, like the cheap cereal you find at the grocery store, of problems. I don't think Google Stadia is still around. At least I don't think so.
No, I
It's
thought that
gone.
was it had a really rough launch too, so I don't think
Oh, it
that
did.
did any services to it.
Yeah, and now you've got what is it called? Is it called
The
Loom or
Steam
Loomy or
box? Oh, I don't know.
no, that's the new console coming out for Steam. That's yet to be determined. Um but I think it's owned by Amazon. It's like it's Loom or Loomy or Loomis or Lumai or something like that where you can play their games like on your TV using your Prime subscription.
It's probably owned by Netflix now. Getting into the other bit of news that I had before we get into the podcast episode proper. Uh, for those of you who are not aware, Netflix submitted a bid of I think like $80 billion to buy Warner Brothers.
Mhm.
And if that goes
wow.
through, say goodbye to physical media as we know it. Uh, I I'm not devastated, but I do think it's a pretty bad idea. Warner Brothers was in trouble for a while. I think the first sign of that was when they scrapped a near completed Looney Tunes movie for like a tax write off or something. Um, but yeah, they haven't been doing well for a while, and if Netflix is trying to buy you, that's yeah, it's not great.
You know what gets my goat about that?
What?
Netflix cried they were super poor and losing tons of money because people were
Yes.
sharing passwords, but then they're like, "Hey, 80 billion to buy a dying company. Get out of
Yeah.
here. Leave. Get out of my yard."
Yeah.
I'm poor too, but I can't go buy an $80 billion company. Where's my tax write-off?
All right. Well, before this episode turns extremely negative, why don't we get into some trivia? All right. Some guy
Okay.
with a mic. I know you said you haven't seen any of this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tony, I think you've seen the most of this franchise out of the three of us. Um,
Okay.
so why don't we get into trivia? Some guy with a mic. Do you want to tell everyone how trivia is going to go down?
Sure thing, host. So trivia works like this. The trivia host, which is our host for this evening's podcast, has 5 trivia questions related to the topic of today's episode. They will give us exactly 60 seconds to answer those 5 questions. The time will start after the first question has been read. Our guest will get to answer first while I am out of the room. Once our guest has completed their answers, I'll re enter and I'll take my turn. The winner is whoever has the most correct answers after their 5 questions.
All right. Thank you for giving the rundown. Tony, any questions on that?
Um, nope, none at all. I'm ready.
Perfect. All right. Some guy with a mic, why don't you go ahead and step out of the studio here? I will let you know when it is safe to return.
Fantastic. All right, I have my headset off. I'm turning around. I'm walking away. My fiance's in here. Don't mind her. She's quiet. All right, I'm leaving.
All right. As he stated before, your time's going to start after I ask the first question. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Question 1. Who has top billing in this franchise?
Um, can you clarify the question?
Whose name is first in the opening credits?
Oh, the Duffer Brothers,
What is the monster antagonist in the first season?
the Demogorgon,
What does Joyce set up to help communicate with Will in the Upside Down?
uh, Christmas lights,
What was the name of Dustin's pet Demogorgon dog?
it's the one thing I don't know.
You can pass if you want.
Yes, pass.
What song does Eddie play in the Upside Down?
Pass.
All right. How do you feel like you did?
I'd say 3 out of 2. I mean, 3 out of 5.
3 or 5? All right. Not horrible. I'm going to give you a little heads up. You probably still won. But I'm going to go ahead and let our co host re enter the studio here.
Putting my headset back on. All right, I'm here. How did it go?
I think it went pretty well. And I'm a bit worried for how you're going to do, just based on the fact that you have no idea what this franchise is.
I'm going to ask you 5 questions about something you've never even seen. All right, time's on the clock.
All right. This is. I would have felt a lot better about this if you had actually done the Studio Ghibli trivia questions, because I definitely wouldn't have gotten any of them right. But with that, are you ready for your turn?
I'm all set. Let's go.
All right. Question 1. Who has top billing in this franchise?
Keegan Michael Keeg.
What is the monster antagonist in the first season?
Demigorgon.
What does Joyce set up to help communicate with Will in the Upside Down?
Isn't it like it's a bunch of letters written on a wall, kind of like a Ouija board with Christmas lights to like indicate letters or numbers or something like that?
What was the name of Dustin's pet Demogorgon dog?
Spot?
What song does Eddie play in the Upside Down?
Welcome to the Jungle.
Time. All right. How do you think you did?
I got 1.
All right. We will see if that is true. Let me finish writing down your time here. All right. Question number 1. Who has top billing in this franchise? Tony said the Duffer Brothers. Some guy with a mic said Keegan Michael Key. The answer is Winona Ryder.
Oh.
Yep. Question number 2. What is the monster antagonist in the first season? You both got this one right with the Demogorgon. 1 for 1. Question 3. What does Joyce set up to help communicate with Will in the Upside Down? Tony said Christmas lights. Some guy with a mic was a bit more specific with the letters on the wall with the Christmas lights. That's both correct. 2 for 2. Question number 4. What was the name of Dustin's pet Demogorgon dog? Tony passed. Some guy with a mic said Spot. The answer is Dart.
Yeah.
Question number 5. We are still tied up 2 for 2. What song does Eddie play in the Upside Down? Some guy with a mic, you said Welcome to the Jungle. by Guns N' Roses. Tony, you said pass. The answer is Master of Puppets by Metallica, and that brings
Ah,
us to a tie. So I think for the second time ever, we go to the times. One of you had a time of 39.95.
Hmm.
The other ran out of time with a grand total of 104.29. That means, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, some guy with a mic, you have won today's round of trivia.
That's not supposed to happen. That's not even in the script.
No, that's not scripted. I think we went against the script. The cards were stacked against you, and you still managed to beat.
Listen, it's just like my professional career. I just fail until I get it right, and then someone gives me a position I don't deserve.
hey, that's all you can do. It's all we all do.
All right. We are talking about Stranger Things today. And as a note, I'm not going to be talking about season 5 at all. Everything I have on my list is season 1 through 4. Tony, I know you've said you've seen the first batch of season 5 episodes. Um,
Mhm.
I think we're going to get into a theory that you have towards the end of the episode, but I don't think we're going to touch on any of the content from those episodes at all.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
Giving a brief overview for those who, well, I even feel weird about doing an overview because those of you who know about the show have seen the show, but those of you who don't care about it absolutely don't know any. So it's preaching to the choir here. I'm going to go over it briefly. The show follows a group of kids who get caught up in this weird um, dimension thing. One of their friends gets trapped in what's called the Upside Down, which is the same exact copy of the real world, except it's always night. There are overgrown vines everywhere. It's really creepy with these monsters roaming around. So the first season follows the kid's mom and the police chief and the kids all kind of going about their own ways of trying to find Will, who went missing. And there's a nice little conspiracy going on, a lot of great characters in this show. I think that's one of the strongest points in the first few seasons are the characterizations, which we'll get into. But there's also a character named 11, who's a young girl who has telekinetic powers, psychic powers. So there's another aspect of the plot with that, and the two kind of connect. I think it's revealed later on that I think 11 accidentally caused the rift that opened up the Upside Down to where the two worlds can intertwine. Um, but eventually, everyone finds Will. It's great. The second season, the Upside Down stuff is still going on. Will becomes a victim of the Mind Flayer, um, which we've talked about the Demogorgon briefly, the Mind Flayers here. So if you're not picking up on this already, they introduce a lot of D&D elements into the show. And I know some guy with a mic, you have some issues with how it's handled. Um, and I want to touch on that in a little bit. But basically, the second season, I think, is just as good as the first one in a lot of ways. In some ways, it starts to get towards that downward shift. Because the show in itself is really in a weird spot in pop culture because when it came out, it was like the biggest thing ever. Like, I remember going to a Halloween party that this band was hosting, and it was Stranger Things themed. It was like around the time the second season came out, I think. They had the Christmas lights on the wall. They had the show going on. It was fun, and I hadn't seen the show at that point, but I could tell it was pretty popular. And then towards the third season, I felt is when it started on its downward trend. Um, which, finishing up with the synopsis, they closed the rift at the end of the second season. Mind Flayers gone, doesn't have to worry about them. But then in season 3, the Russians show up, and this, I should mention the show takes place in the 1980s in a small town in Indiana. So the Russians show up, build this super mall and a secret base below it that really wacky, doesn't fit with the rest of the theme. They reopen the rift, the Mind Flayer shows back up, and there's a whole fight there. And then season 4, it kind of gets into the same thing, but instead of the Mind Flayer, the main antagonist, it's Vecna. Uh, they go on a whole thing, and at the end of season 4, um, they thought the threat had been dealt with, but then as they all reconvene because they spent the entire season apart for some reason, um, they see the entire town get enveloped by the upside down atmosphere. So that's currently where the show is. And like I said, I'll have to say I only watched this because I heard that someone plays Master of Puppets at the end of season 4. So I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll watch the show. Why not? But I kind of want to get into before we delve deep into what was good and then the rise and fall of the show. Tony, what were your initial impressions on the show?
Um, I would say, like, I guess you're saying like as a whole.
Yeah, like I don't know if you watched this as it aired or if you did something like I did where you didn't get to it until like a majority of it was already out. Um,
I kind of watched it as it aired, but I believe the second and third season I kind of watched them later because like so much time had went by at that time. But yeah, to me, like just from the beginning to where we are now, it just seems like the production of everything was supposed to be one way, and then because of whatever happened, the story has to just keep adjusting to change. Because like some of the things that you were saying in your synopsis about like you didn't like, they kind of found a way to make it make sense in the next season.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like it's moving. It feels like it's moving the goalpost almost,
Hmm.
just to make sure everything fits. So like I'll have to see how it all turns out in the end to if the payoff was worth it or if probably was just a waste of time. But um yeah, that's just kind of how I felt.
Yeah, and like I guess delving into the rise of the show, I think one of the aspects that they absolutely nailed were the characters. Um, like this has a lot of child actors in it, um, and I mean it does have two big name actors. Winona Ryder, I think her this the return to screens for her because I know she was out of it for a little
Yeah,
while.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. David Harbour, he's been in more stuff now because he's in Marvel. Um, this wasn't his first thing, but I think this is something that helped elevate him. Um, their characters are absolutely amazing. I have started rewatching the show, it leading up to season 5, and the first two seasons are a lot better than I remember them being. I think because like I said, I binged the show before, and everything kind of bled together towards the end. Um, but looking at the first two seasons in a vacuum, their characterizations are very solid. Uh, Winona Ryder's character Joyce is this distressed mother who is trying everything to find her son. And there are a lot of instances where I felt like that could have gotten really out of hand and annoying. But she is a very well written and strong character who um, is very set in her beliefs. She's confident in her decisions, and she turned out to be right too. Um, and then with
Yeah.
David Harbour's character, Police Chief Hopper, he starts the first episode kind of like this deadbeat, doesn't really care. He's just doing his job to do it, kind of police officer. But as it gets into it, very quickly, he still gives off that attitude, but he does do his job. He does look into stuff. Um, and it creates a really nice dynamic there. Um, Another character I want to point out is Steve. I think we'll touch more on Steve in a little bit. Um, but he's this, stereotypical, well, not stereotypical bully, but he does start off um, towards the middle of the first season, become like a pseudo antagonist, where he's at odds with the sister of one of the children characters. But eventually, he turns around and becomes one of the main protagonists in the series. Um, do you have anything to add to the characters I mentioned? Any characters you want to highlight for this segment?
Um, I was gonna propose a question, or maybe just like a little pushback on the Hopper
Yeah, go for
thing.
it.
Um, so the whole reason for his drive and his determination to find Will was because it was a child and he lost
Mm-hmm.
his young daughter. So that was like a it was like a reminder of that to him. So he felt obligated to take care of that. Now, if it wasn't Will, do you feel like he still would have been this great character, or you think he would have still been stuck depressed at the world?
Well, that's like kind of asking the question, what would the show be if the main plot hadn't happened? Like, because even if
True.
it happened to another child, I think he still would have been determined to find them. I think,
Well, that's what I mean. It wasn't a child. That's what I was saying. Like if it
oh,
was an adult and
well,
he's the police.
yeah, you kind of got that with Barb because in, I think, the second episode, one of Nancy's friends gets yoinked into the upside down and killed. But the conspiracy that's going on is I don't know what that organization is called, but 11 broke out of some child testing superpower organization. And the people behind that organization are aware of the upside down. They're like tapping phones, monitoring things. When Barb goes missing, we know she died, but they stage her car to be towards, I think, like a bus stop to make it seem like she ran away. Um, so yeah, I don't think he would have been as invested in an adult disappearance. Um, but part of it that adds to it, like him and Joyce have history because I think they went to high school together. So it's like
Yes.
these are two old friends as well, even though um, you wouldn't necessarily know it by the way he portrays himself at the beginning of the series.
Mhm.
But those characters are all great. I think the only character I have a problem with is 11, and that's just because she's not a MacGuffin, but she's definitely like, oh, I can do everything that needs to be done to solve this issue. And then there's this weird like not amnesia thing going on, but she acts like she doesn't know how to do anything or what words are, yet she knows what other stuff is. It's weird. I don't think it's explained, and I mean it's not a big deal, but it's like,
I
eh,
think that was kind of like left over in the whole MK Ultra stuff, where like
yeah,
that's why she's only can remember retain certain information of certain things.
yeah. The whole vibe of the show, especially the first season, is I think the Duffer Brothers did an amazing job with the setting and the feeling of not only the 80s, but like children in general, like how they view problems and how they feel like they can accomplish anything almost, and they're really determined. Um, and it's rooted, it feels like the Goonies a little bit. But like you said, it also ties into like MK Ultra and real world conspiracies a little bit. Um, It really does feel like a love letter to 80s media. Because I think in season 3, you get like the Terminator character, Russian guy. Um, you get other pop culture adjacents there. I think in season 1, you see a facehugger egg from Alien in the Upside Down for like a brief second. Um,
Yes.
so, like, a lot of care and love went into the creation of this. Um, but then I think where it changes for me is in season 3. I mentioned Dustin has this Demogorgon pet dog in season 2. I remember it being a lot more egregious than what it actually is. But that was the start of where things got a little bit wacky for me. But season 3, I think, takes that to the extreme. Um, I mentioned that the Russians set up a secret lab underground underneath a mall, which that mall goes up in what, 6 months? So it's kind of unrealistic there. The whole lab extremely unrealistic, but it really, I don't know what kind of genre you describe it as, but it feels like B movie conspiracy wacky vibes other than serious, which the first 2 seasons were treated very seriously. Um, but then you have the characters are changed as well. Like Steve goes from this, I mean, he's bumped down a peg a little bit throughout, but he starts as like the king of the high school, um, and then by season
Yeah.
3, he's scooping ice cream at the mall, and he can't get anyone to go out with him. Even though I don't think anything really happened that would put him down a peg in the social standing. Um, in the first 2 seasons, he was kind of treated as like a guest appearance. He wasn't a main cast, but they made him main cast in season 3, and I think that was a mistake uh, because you're given this character who worked in small segments in the first 2 seasons. Now you're trying to fill up so much time with him now. There's only so much you can do with him, and I think they took his character in a not, I think, a step too far in what where they were going with them. Same with Hopper. Like at the end of season 2, he adopts 11, and by the start of season 3, he's turned into this bumbling idiot whose main like villain in his life is this 13-year-old kid who's dating his daughter, who's one of the main characters. And it's like it just makes him, I don't know, it fits with the
Yeah.
rest of the season. I'll give them that, but it doesn't fit with what came before it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and this is kind of what I was hinting to in the beginning, saying like about moving the goalpost, because like
Mm-hmm.
everything that you kind of touched on that's like kind of quirky and like doesn't really make sense, they've tried to find a way to tie it in season 5 to make it make sense.
Okay.
So it's like if you play along, okay, but you know what I mean? So a lot of your a lot of these things, I will say like the Hopper character and like that, I've noticed as pointless as things are in this show, everything happens for a reason. Like they're very particular about what you see on the screen at most of the times. And so like for example, when they play D&D and they show like the shots of like the monsters, and that's like foreshadowing, where
Yeah.
like in the first season where he rolled and I believe he didn't have enough to destroy the Demogorgon,
Right.
so then that's like foreshadowing where he gets attacked. But then later he does get enough to roll and he defeats it, and they're like that's the end of the season and things. So it's kind of like they do a lot of like Easter egg foreshadowing things. So that whole time period with Hopper basically being a stepdad was important for the timeline because 11 needed to learn discipline and
Yeah.
how to so and it shows through in the later season, but it's kind of like one of those things where it's like it could have probably been like wrote out of the show, but it's like they intended to show that detail so that you could see the results of those details. And that's basically kind of what I'm meaning is like they show
Yeah.
you the detail and then you see the results of what you've seen earlier. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that point. I do think it is important to have these plot points in these moments, but I feel like they sacrifice some of the characterizations that they had built up so much in order to maybe accomplish that goal easier, or I don't know, take it in another direction. Um, but it's funny how you mentioned like changing goalposts. Talking about Steve again, I think he was like the standout character of the show for a while. So like you always know that, like, except for the final season, oh, they can't kill him because they still have more show going on, and once they kill Steve, viewership's going to drop off or something because he's a fan favorite. Um, but I don't know if this is common knowledge now, but he was originally supposed to die in season one. Um, I heard that theory and I looked it up again while I was writing notes for the episode here, and apparently he was supposed to die at some point, um, either in the final confrontation at the buyer's house with the Demogorgon, or sometime before that, because his place was supposed to be, um, Will's dad was supposed to show up and fight him off with the Dead Rising baseball bat. Um,
mm,
but because they liked Joe Carey's acting and his characterization so much, they changed it. So I would have loved to see like the original plans for how they thought this show was going to go. Like if they had envisioned a season 4 or a season 5, what that would have looked like versus what it evolved into over time, uh, with these changes that they made for the better in the case of Steve, keeping him alive, versus maybe a choice that was forced on them, like the whole Russian under the mall subplot. But
I would say, see, and that's another like I'd say season 5 thing. They kind of
okay,
explain how that's possible.
okay.
So that's what I mean, where it's like you see it and it doesn't really, but then they come back and try to make it make sense. So it's
Do,
like if you play along with the storyline, everything it'll all make sense. But it's just
does it feel like they're trying to correct a mistake, or are they doing like, no, this was always the plan all along and it's just now finally paying off in all those aspects?
I feel like it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I feel I feel like they've tried to correct well, like, and that's what I mean when I first stated like the way they started it and the way that they're doing it now seem like two different things. Where like they wanted to make it maybe a little bigger than what it was, broader, but then something happened. Like it just seems like it was supposed to be broader, but then all of a sudden it just got very it everything shrunk around certain characters instead of being like how it appeared in the beginning, where it was like big and like the world knows, where like Hawkins is this town and the government, where so yeah, like I'd agree with that.
Yeah, so we've mentioned some D&D elements throughout the episode so far. Um, the show, I think, starts with the kids playing a game of D&D in the basement, and the Demogorgon is introduced as their big final enemy of the campaign. What I find funny about it is Mike has Will roll for an action. He's told to either do fireball or go invisible. I'm not too sure. Um, but that's being framed like it's one action and the Demogorgon is dead. Um, of course, at the end of the season, that once everyone's reunited, that does happen. It's one action and he dies. Which, if you've played D&D, usually encounters don't go that way. Uh, some of the other monsters that are involved in the show are, like we mentioned, the Mind Flayer. That does feel like a big bad final enemy situation. It takes 2 seasons to deal with him. And then in the 4th season, Vecna is introduced, who his powers are he can like take control of people's minds through their despair, and then he kills them in order to open up a rift entirely that combines the two worlds. Which, from what some guy with the mic has told us about D&D, kind of sounds like they're reforming the Lich idea and using that in that way. But I'm interested to know what is an actual Demogorgon in D&D? What does a Mind Flayer do? And what is the proper characterization of Vecna? Some guy with the mic.
Where do we want to start?
I think, do we go from the beginning timeline of the show wise and do the Demogorgon?
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with start. So, I have not seen I have seen bits and clips from the show, and I want to make this very clear that any show can take any property and use it as liberally as they choose. There is no problem doing that. There is no one set way to enjoy D&D. There is no one set way to enjoy Pathfinder, no one set way to enjoy Lancer. You like it, you want to edit, modify it, that is what you do. Do what you like. The first jarring thing when my mother likes this show, and she's like, "Oh, you like Dungeons and Dragons, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been DMing for a long time." She goes, "Oh, well, in the show, they're fighting a demigorgon." And I said, "Oh, so they're dead." And she went, "No, they're hunting it." I said, "No, they're dead. They're definitely dead. You said they're children? They're dead." Because, so a demigorgon in the show, and again, I have not seen, so maybe they're just kind of giving these creatures like names from the book, or maybe they're just going with like childlike whimsy. That's fine, kind of
Yeah,
like
can
the
I make a point to that?
yes, please do.
I still don't know if it's supposed to be one-to-one Demogorgon, or if that's just the D&D equivalent of these monsters that show up, and that's just how the children are choosing to
Interpret it.
yeah, and
So
analogy it.
yeah,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but it's just very coincidental. It seems that the children are playing D&D first, and
Mm-hmm.
then whatever they're playing through D&D happens to show up from the upside down. So
So
yeah.
the big first disconnect for me with that is Demigorgon is not like a fight. Well, you can fight Demigorgon, but Demigorgon isn't like a wolf. Like the Demigorgon in the show is like kind of like Alien versus Predator type of deal, from what I gather.
In the later seasons, I think it is, but in the first season, it is framed as this one singular entity that
Yeah.
is like
Because Demigorgon from D&D's lore, if we're going through by the lore, Demigorgon is a demon prince from the abyss.
oh, okay.
Demigorgon is a two-headed fiend that's constantly arguing with itself, trying to one-up itself to attain more power. And if at any time there is, because I know that this Demigorgon in the show terrorizes a town, Demigorgon, the demon prince, would terrorize the continent.
Yeah, so it definitely sounds like it's just
Again, I was like, they're dead. They're children. They're dead. There's no way anyone of anybody of our world can go toe to toe. The U.S. military couldn't take down Demigorgon, I don't think.
oh, but an 11-year-old girl with psychic powers sure can.
Psionics. That's gonna fit in later with some other stuff. So, and again, they can interpret this stuff however they. I felt that was a weird interpretation to go. We're gonna call it the Demigorgon. I'm not sure if a producer just liked the cool sound of the name.
Oh,
Maybe.
I'm sure that had to be one of the influences there.
It's the exact same thing I have. You ever seen Lost Girl?
No.
It's a supernatural type of show. It was actually pretty decent. But they have a bit where she's fighting a lich, but they keep calling it a lick because it's Lich is how it's written. And so they kept calling it a
Okay.
lick, and I'm like, I'm gonna strangle everyone on screen. Stop calling it that. And they say it like 50 times in the episode. I'm like, stop. Ask did no one in the writers room have one nerdy like nephew that plays D&D and be like, no, that's a lich. It makes the ch makes a t sound. Anyway, because and again, Demigorgon, it's a cool name, but Demigorgon is, yeah, he's a two-headed demon prince from the abyss. Um, so wildly different. The Demigorgon in the Stranger Things show, and again, childlike whimsy, because it have either of you ever played the game Mother?
No.
Really old Nintendo game. We only actually got the third one came to the US. Mother 1 and 2 are Japanese only. Good games. But it's basically the whole plot of that game is it's two kids in a playground making up a story in their minds, and that's how the enemies that come to fruition, and
Hmm.
like the good guys are like their dad and their uncle and their grandma, and it's childlike whimsy and personified.
Yeah.
Which is, really cool way to do it. So maybe that's what they're going on with. But so I was like, yeah, that's a weird first disconnect. Um, yeah, it. Let me, if I may, um,
You looking up a
Demigorgon,
picture?
Demigorgon. I can send a picture to the chat. Hold on. Let me get a picture of this guy. Demigorgon.
Yeah, I was
Here he
looking at
is. He's He's got a lot of iterations. His first AD&D iteration is really weird. He looks like a lizard that's nervous about asking you to prom.
it.
It's
Yeah,
really weird. But this is his current iteration. I believe he's
Okay.
like 15 feet tall.
yeah,
Yeah. So I can see some similarities here, like with the digitigrade legs, the overall color scheme, and the
Yeah.
monster-esque appeal.
Is the Demigorgon in Stranger Things capable of like human speech and like thought?
No,
Like, is it
absolutely not.
sentient? Because Demigorgon is like the only way really to defeat Demigorgon is to make him fight with himself, because the two heads each have a personality, and as long as you can feed one and make the other jealous, he will fight himself, and that's why he's not higher up in the hierarchy,
Oh.
as he's constantly fighting himself. Um, so it's, again, I'm not saying Stranger Things did a bad job. I don't think this is a bad interpretation. I think it's a weird thing to. I think it's just I think it's a writers' room thing where it's, hey, Demigorgon it's fun to say. It's very much it's a sound you don't forget, you don't hear anywhere else. So it's very easy to latch onto and go Demigorgon, and you think Stranger Things. I hear Demigorgon and go, the hubris of any adventuring party going to the abyss.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. Should we move on to
Yeah. I mean, from what
what's the
I
Mhm.
can gather, I think the Mind Flayer is something that's the most faithful, just because in the show it does what it does in the name. I mean, it flays people, it takes control of their minds. But D&D, what exactly does the Mind Flayer do? And is this
so
a singular entity, or um, are there multiple
so
of
a
them?
a mind flayer, also known as an illithid, is basic. So think of a regular person and replace their head with an octopus.
Okay.
That is a mind flayer. Mind flayers are psionic creatures that are born through a myriad of ways. There's like a couple ways they can be born, but basically they all serve what is called the hive mind, or the mother brain, if you want to go to like Sam like
Baldur's
Zero Suit
Gate.
Samus and uh they call it the absolute
Okay.
in Baldur's Gate. But yeah, so basically they have what's called a hive mind, which is like their mom. They live in the Underdark, which is kind of like, it's like hell, diet hell.
Hmm.
It exists under the regular portion of the world. It's like a bunch of caves put together. Because it's under the ground and it's dark. They call it the Underdark. Um, they live down there. They are psionic creatures, so they have like telepathy. They don't speak. They float and levitate because walking is considered like barbaric. Um, they see themselves as perfection. They are completely sentient. They are capable of thought. a lot of them were human, or elven or whatever. Mostly human and elven, I think, are the preferred prey. But illithid can infect hosts to turn them into illithid, which is how Baldur's Gate tends to make new illithid. Though that's not the only way to do it. Illithid can also be born from eggs. There's a lot of lore about the Mind Flayer, and Mind Flayer is a surface term. Illithid are their actual names, like uh, their scientific name, I guess one could say. They're not nearly as terrifying as the shit I'm seeing on Google from Stranger Things. That thing is like a cosmic horror level entity.
Yeah, yeah. In season
Like,
2, it's more of like a lost smoke monster kind of thing, but in season 3, like it absolutely devours bodies of the people that it's flayed, and that's how it grows. Um,
there's a big of a difference there.
yeah.
So mind flayers are called mind flayers because they only eat the brains of their targets. Basically, they want to grab you and they chomp on the back of your head and crack it like a coconut,
Mm.
and then they use their octopus like tentacles to like hold your head in place while they suck out your brain like it's a chunky smoothie. Um, yeah. So a little different. They're also not super scary. They're okay. So you're never gonna find just one illithid by itself because they are a social hive mind creature that are all linked to their hive mind mother brain, who is the actual like illithid spawn herself. She's the one that commands all of them.
Mhm.
Think of it like a queen bee essentially.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, like, and again, I also think like with this from what I've seen, I think Mind Flayer might be an apt description for what this cosmic horror creature does.
Yeah, that's kind
Um,
of what I'm thinking.
and again, there's no wrong way to interpret or change anything in D&D. I'm not saying it's wrong. I am saying it's if you sit down with someone, especially a Gygaxian level son of a gun, if you which are a D&D 1 or first edition D&D players, and go, "Yeah, so I want to take on the Mind Flayer." And they're going to go, "All right. Uh we can do that. What level do you want to be?" Because okay, so here's the spells. Here's the stats for a mind flayer in D&D. They are medium aberrations, and they are lawful evil. Lawful evil meaning that they do have a code of conduct. They are not just pure chaos incarnate. All they want is they want to make the rest of the world in their image because they believe themselves to be beautiful and perfect. They have an armor class of 15 and they have 71 hit points. That's it. They're not even in their strength comes from their psionics and their numbers is again, if one illithid sees you, they all see you. Anyone that's connected to that, there are other hives, of course, other hive minds. So like you'll have hive mind alpha, hive mind beta, and they might get along, they might hate each other. It all depends. Um but like if one from Hive Mind Alpha sees the party, every other illithid knows where they are, what they're capable of, everything. They all share information, which is why they're really dangerous because the party can't do anything in secret once they've been found out. Um,
Yeah, so
they
that
have
sounds
telepathy.
it sounds pretty similar in general concept to what is in the show. I mean, uh,
Yeah,
looks wise
yeah.
and other things like that, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're gonna call this monster anything, I guess Mind Flayer is a
An apt description.
yeah.
I mean, it from what you said and what it looks like, I would say if you're gonna name it anything, this is a pretty fitting thing. I think Demigorgon's a bit off the mark, for what it is, but I think this one's pretty apt.
Yeah. So Vecna, from what you've briefly told us, or me in the
I
past,
love Vecna.
I don't think the show Vecna and D&D Vecna are gonna be as similar as the Mind Flayer.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a little bit about Vecna and from D&D. You guys fill me in on Stranger Things Vecna as we go.
Okay.
So Vecna in D&D started as either a human commoner or a human king. Sources differ because this happened a very long time ago. What is Vecna in Stranger Things exactly?
So I'm pretty sure that Vecna
Like what is he socially?
he was a person who, oh no, he was a kid. And Tony, I don't remember like when he was like a child in those flashbacks. But
Yes.
eventually he turns out to work at the facility where 11 is, and he also has psychic powers. Um, but then him and 11 get in a fight, and she sends him uh, to the Upside Down. This is the first time that rift is opened, and she sends him in there. So as he's wandering around, that's how he gets more of his powers, I think, is how the story goes.
Uh, more, yeah, more or less. There's a lot more backstory, but yeah, basically, yeah. He was human. He got thrown into the upside down. His DNA changed, fused with the mind flayer, and that gave him power. And then he came back, and then basically let the mind flayer take over, and then he uh, killed his family and things like that. And then that's how
Mhm.
he met Dr. Brenner.
Okay.
A bit different from the D&D one, but again, not a bad interpretation. Vecna in D&D was either a human or half-elven commoner or king. Again, this happened a long time ago in the lore, so there's only kind of bits and pieces left. Vecna had a very cruel upbringing. His mother, who was a notably awful woman, would sacrifice animals for dark rituals, consorted with demons and Deva alike. Um, she basically was a torturess, and she wanted to make her son just like her and possibly even sacrifice him to attain godhood. Vecna ran with the idea of godhood, and his mother does die. Some accounts say it's illness. Some say a demon like takes its due. Others say that Vecna actually killed her. We still don't know the full story. We probably never will because again, Vecna is incredibly, incredibly old. Um, Long story short, Vecna decides he is afraid of dying. Um, he's a very accomplished wizard, and because of this, he's looking for a way to never die. He's purely driven by fear. Where some kings are driven by greed of immortality, like I want to rule forever, I want to be the most powerful king. Vecna just simply does not want to die because it scares him. So he amasses a bunch of information about things that are called liches. A lich is traditionally a wizard who, for whatever reason, decides they want to be immortal. To do so, they either have to make a deal with Orcus, the demon prince of undeath, or they have to find out a way to make a potion of lichdom. Lichdom is basically a special poison. You take your mortal soul and you put it in an item. Think an item. So you know Harry Potter and the Horcrux.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exact same idea. Exact same idea.
Hmm.
So you pick like a box, a bottle, a crystal ball, whatever you can write inside of, and you use it to bind your soul to the mortal realm. Then you drink a potion and you die. If you did everything right, your soul will go to the phylactery and basically spit you out into a nearby corpse, and you'll rise again as as a thinking, feeling undead, not a zombie, but something with intelligence.
Kind of like,
This is what
is that
Vecna.
our evil campaign? Is that what happened to us?
Yes, essentially. So in your evil campaign, you are working for a lich, and he decided he's trying to make like lich copies, and he's trying to make what he calls the recalled, and he's using your players as kind of like a test group, and you're the only successes he's ever had. So Vecna is trying to become a lich, and so he's amassing knowledge and secrets, and Vecna decides that secrets are the true power of everything. The more secrets you have about other people, or magic, or anything, you are a powerful person. He gains a lot of secrets on other nations and powerful people so that they'll leave him alone. For example, there's a rumor that he knows that a rival king is sleeping with like his chambermaid, and he's like, if you tell anybody, I will ruin you, I'll ruin your family, you leave me alone. And so they just never go to war.
Hmm.
Whether or not that's true, we still do not know. It may be completely false. Over time, Vecna grows a bit crazier, because again, he's a mortal human or half elf who only is going to live for so long, and he starts going and consorting with demons and devils. One theory says that he talked to Orcus, and Orcus was like, "Sup, bro? You can be a lich. Here's how to do it. Don't worry about it. I got you." Another source says he talked to Asmodeus himself, who's the ruler of the Nine Hells, and Asmodeus was like, "Hey, your mom was nuts. By the way, here's a secret to immortality." Um, Again, we don't know which is true, or if both of them are true. Um, he does have an apprentice named Acerak, which many of the D&D group may know as the who is also a lich, who actually served Vecna in life. He was Vecna's most trusted lieutenant and best friend, basically.
Oh, besties.
Yes, and then Vecna was going to be killed by a bunch of clerics of Pelor, a old and ancient god. And Acerak saves Vecna by sacrificing himself. Which of course deepens their bond and their trust. Turns out Acerak just did it so that Vecna would let him into his library and steal all his knowledge. Acerak literally just wanted to steal from his best friend for his own benefit, which is why liches are so crazy and secretive, because they believe everyone's out to get them because everyone is. Because either the living want you to stay dead because you're powerful and scary, or the other dead want to know how to make you more of a less more dead. And kill you. So Acerak goes off and does his own thing. He gets his own whole D&D thing called the Tomb of Annihilation, which is very good. Not to be confused with the Tomb of Horrors. That is entirely different. So yeah, Acerak basically goes, haha, I got your goodies. I'm going to go learn the secrets now. And Acerak does ascend to lichdom. And Vecna is vexed by this. He is very angry. He feels very betrayed. And he basically shuts everyone else out. He has a massive following by this point. A lot of them are Kenkus, which is interesting. Kenkus are raven people who can't fly because they're cursed. And they can only repeat speech they've heard in the last 24 hours. I don't know about you, but if I was becoming an all-powerful like creature of damnation and a bunch of crow people were like, "Sup," I'd want to know where they came from or why they're following me. But you know what? We ball. I believe he also has a Nyogi in his repertoire. More about that later. Blah 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 blah. Working relationship with Asmodeus, a powerful archdevil, blah 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 blah. Michelle Plane, Nine Hells. Long story short, Vecna does the unthinkable, and through still unknown methods, though there are theories, attains godhood. He literally becomes the first, in record, mortal to say, screw this, I'm leveling up so much that I get to be a god now. And so he does. Again, there are a lot of theories of how he did this. Some say that he, using his power of secrets, like basically got dirt on a different god and said, look, put me in the pantheon or I'm going to tell all the other gods and make sure you fall from grace. That might be how it happened. Others say that he made a deal with a higher devil. Some say he actually was favored by like a good deity and was given this as a gift of some kind. There's a lot of options. Some say he sacrificed like 10,000 people and then that was all it really takes to become. So again,
Oh, I
there's a
mean, if
lot of
that's all
rumor
I
and
have to do,
conjecture.
then sign me up.
Right? Maybe serial killers just want to become eternally alive. So Vecna is now a god, in his own right, beholden to none, and he has a bunch of followers. Not, I wouldn't say a bunch. He has cults, who he doesn't really care about. He got what he wanted, and he was like, I don't care about any of you. I don't care that you worship me or praise me. I will never die. I have beaten all of you. Now leave me alone, I'm gonna go read. And that's basically all Vecna kind of does. He does dabble from time to time for curiosity's sake in the mortal realm, but he's not really like, he's a good antagonist for any game, but he's a unkillable antagonist, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be your oh, we're gonna go kill Vecna. I mean, you can kill gods in D&D. They have stat blocks. They can be killed. Um, but he mostly
Does a
just kind
4
of,
hit?
you know what? It does roll damage.
12.
You take 10,000 points of what is it? Hellish Rebuke.
Ah, well, all right.
He also travels through time
Ooh, fun.
and messes with things in the past and in the future. Uh, some believe that he had something to do with the Weavers of Netheril. I don't know if that's true or not. And the Black Obelisk, which is in a couple of different D&D games. Um, but yeah, he's just kind of he just was afraid of dying. His mom was really mean to him. His dad is a ghost figure. We don't know who his father even was, I don't think. Um yeah. That's kind of all he is. He's got a bunch of cults now that worship him, and some are violent, some are just kind of like, "Oh, I don't want to die either." Some people believe that if you worship Vecna, when you do die, he'll snag your soul from the astral sea and put it like in his library so you can study with him.
Hmm.
I don't think that happens. I don't think Vecna wants friends. I think he wants to be left alone. I think making an altar to Vecna and then call, because he is a divine. So if you make an altar, he can hear you.
Hmm.
So I think it'd be more akin to like, you ever had like, remember when you were like in like second or third grade and like you would have, maybe you'd be old, no, I'd be older than that. Remember being like in like middle school, high school, and you have like your first cell phone,
Yeah.
and like there's that one kid that nobody likes in school that you gave your phone number to because you felt sorry for them, and now they call and text you all the time wanting to hang out.
No.
We have different histories, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the guy who just was like, you want to go hang out? No, no, I don't. I think that's what I think. Honestly, building a shrine to Vecna and calling upon him is a lot like ringing him up and asking him for McDonald's, and he goes, "I don't know you. Stop calling me." Um, which is how I imagine Vecna. But I don't know. He does have clerics. There are two divine objects. The Eye of Vecna and the Hand of Vecna. They're the only two remaining pieces of his mortal body, apparently, and they offer great power. He used to have a dagger called Afterthought. I don't know why he called it that, but he stabbed people with it a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So,
Um,
of all of the things that the show has, that seems like the least similar to the actual um, D&D subject matter.
Yeah, I'd say I could see where somehow they tried, where some similarities come in. Um, like for example, his whole thing is like knowing everybody's secrets and knowing everybody's like thing that they feel bad about, so that that's what he uses to judge and manipulate and then eventually kill his victims. So that's one kind of similarity I see. And then, like you said, Vecna had like this troubling upbringing where he, the character who played Vecna, had somewhat something similar, not obviously in the abusive context, but like um he, I think something with his. I'm trying to explain this stuff without giving away season 5 things, so
Okay.
that's why I'm like kind of
mhm.
um one sec.
Yeah, because they don't go too in depth in season 4. From what I remember, I'm not at that part in my rewatch yet. So
Yeah, no. It basic well, I guess I could say that they both had somewhat traumatizing childhoods, whether it's under different contexts. So like they were both like messed up from a child and they just grew worse. Those are the two similarities I see, but there that's a reach.
yeah, and it's kind of funny how you bring up that Vecna can do the whole time travel thing because even though I don't think Vecna in the show can, I think it's revealed in season 4 that the Upside Down is like 5 years in the past. Um, Maybe that's just it was the same when the rift was opened and then it just never progressed. Um, but I don't think that works. Like that works in season 4, but I don't think it works in like season 1 because with Will communicating through the Christmas lights weren't put up before the rift was opened. So I don't really remember how in depth they went with that explanation. It's a cool concept, a pseudo form of time travel there, but I don't remember it working if you think about it too much. I don't know. Am I completely misremembering that, or what's going on with that?
Uh, I mean, what didn't it have something to do? Oh, geez, I don't want to.
I just
Yeah,
rem-
I don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
remember there being a bit when they're planning out their final attack and they go to get Nancy's gun or whatever and it's not there and they open up a diary and it's dated like 5 years in the past. So that's how they have
Oh
to
yeah.
like rethink their plan of attack there. But again, I don't know if that was always there and it was just never relevant or if they just introduced that in season 4. But
Um, I believe it was just that in season 4,
yeah.
because yeah, they kind of touch on that a little bit.
The last thing I want to touch on, um, Tony, you have some theories of who the final main antagonist could be.
Yes. Um, when I was compiling my notes just to make sure everything, I ran across another one, and I'm like, oh, that one makes even more sense. So, do you want me to just give you the one, or do you want me to give you both?
I mean, we have a little bit of time left. Why don't you start with the one you feel could work out the best, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So I was watching because I want to credit these people. It was built by gamers,
Okay.
and it was their analysis of past season Easter eggs and uh, foresight things where everything is always, as we know since the beginning, everything has been around the whole D&D game. And in the very beginning scene, I believe they show a three-headed dragon, and then like it doesn't really get explained too much, but then as things go on, these every character that they talk about or they show on screen ends up being like uh, a villain in a season or just some way catered to their world.
Mm-hmm.
The reason behind that they'll explain. So that's what kind of makes it a little more. But basically, that they've kind of set the stage to where like Vecna isn't the final villain. So it's kind of like, okay, well, who's next? And they've already done the mind flare, but like the mind flare, as you explained, it's like the hive mind. It's not the actual big brain itself.
Right.
So there's this theory that it's, which I'm not 100% familiar with the game D&D to know this as fact, but they say that the biggest, like the end biggest monster dragon in D&D is Tiamat. So another thing that like hints to that is when what is that, season 4 where they're driving. Is it 4? Yeah, where they're driving in the car and he shows him the piece of art, and it's this red dragon, and it shows like them, or I think that was depicted as them as like the final fight, and they have swords and they're fighting this three-headed dragon thing.
Hmm.
So, um, when also too when Vecna uh like showed Nancy the like what the future would be, it said that she specifically described these things as like a creature with a bigger mouth than anything she's with a big gaping mouth bigger than anything she's ever seen. And she didn't mention like a spider creature or the mind flayer. So that kind of like alludes to there's something that she's seen that's even bigger
Yeah.
than all of all of that. And then I'll throw just one in there. It won't ruin any details or anything. But in season 5, there's a scene where Holly's going to a cave and the camera just focuses on the scorpions. Like it blurs her out and it just focuses on these scorpions. So
Mm.
so that's another thing. So supposedly Tiamat made Scorpion Men as like her army. So then that would put Vecna being the lieutenant and the Mind Flayer as the general. That's my theory based off of what Built by Gamers has said.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense. But and now the other one is it's the Thessal Hydra. And now I look
They
at
mentioned that in one of their games in the show.
yeah, so so that's where I'm like, okay, well they've actually mentioned it, and it would be kind of a weird thing to just never, mention it and then just never include it. So so that was the second one I came across was the Thessal Hydra, and looking at the image of it, it's got the big gaping mouth and it has all the tentacles and the snakes, but it's nowhere near the size of what Tiamat is.
Yeah.
So it could be a combination of both, or maybe it's neither of them at all. It's just fun to speculate.
Yeah, what they'll probably do is use the concept of the first one you talked about with the scorpions, but then call it the Thessal Hydra, um, as kind of like an amalgamation of all these other concepts that they've done for the other uh, antagonists that they've created.
That would honestly make the most sense.
Because like I haven't seen season 5 yet, and I don't know anything about the monsters that you mentioned, but for them to focus on a scorpion when a character's in the background or whatever, um, it seems like a ton of foreshadowing there. So
Yeah. So that's where I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, that was my theory on
yeah. All right,
based off Built by Gamers, not taking credit.
well, that's all I had on my list. Is there anything we didn't touch on? Anything you want us to delve into shortly in the final minutes here? Some guy with a mic or Tony?
Um,
um, Go ahead.
you go ahead. Yeah, after you, sir.
Did you want to? I don't know. Since it's technically, did you want me to go over a little bit of the first Shadow, the play?
Oh, yeah. Because how did you watch it? Because it's a live play, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I've seen like recaps on it, so
Okay.
I don't have. I've got a brief synopsis of like what happened to where the story picks up where he comes in,
Yes.
and kind of it kind of explains like all the stuff that you were saying. So that's where like the
Okay.
play fills in all of the gaps kind of, and then season 5 just considers the play as canon, so then it just everything goes together from there.
I guess, does it constantly call back to the play, or is it just like one or two small mentions to where, like, if you've seen the play, it rewards you for doing that, but it's not expecting you to watch this? Or is it something
If
where it's constantly doing it to where, like, you feel like you're missing out on something pivotal?
Yeah, yeah, like I would say if you want the whole full encompassing story of everything, you'd have to see the play. And
Okay.
like I feel like that's why they did it and is also included it as canon, so that way you have to go for marketing and things like that. But it's really honestly without giving away too much, it's basically the start of the story.
The start of season 5 story or the start of this Stranger Things story?
Start of the Stranger Things
Okay.
story.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess if anyone listening is interested in this franchise still, um, thank you for that piece of information, because I wouldn't have known, one, that there is a play, or two, that it is essential viewing.
Yeah, it's they did it on purpose, but yeah, it's you kind of have to go see it to for everything to make sense. But it's kind of one of those things where like they could have had this play like years ago.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's,
So
well, it's only been what, 3.5, 4 years since the last season.
yeah, but like 10 years total for the whole.
Yeah, yeah. You had a point you were going to make, some guy with a mic?
I gotta touch on Tiamat real quick if you want to do that.
Sure.
So
Yes.
Tiamat is one of the primordial dragons. So basically, in the great beginning, there was a god, and the god was like, dragons, they're a thing now. And then there's two main ones. There is Bahamut, the platinum dragon of good and righteousness, and drink your milk,
I
eat your
wonder where we've
vegetables.
heard that name before.
And then there's Tiamat, who is the sister of Bahamut, and she's mad. She has 5 heads, one for each color of the chromatic dragons. She is a chromatic. Bahamut is the metallic. Metallic dragons are gold, bronze, silver, yada yada yada, all the shinies. And then you've got the chromatics, which are Tiamat's children, who all they want is power. So Bahamut and the platinum dragons are like, mortals are so cute, aren't they fun? Oh, look, that one's got a kingdom. I hope he does well. And then the chromatic dragons from Tiamat's side are, I'm breaking your kingdom. Um. So yeah, Tiamat is the mother of all dragons, 5-headed. So I'm wondering. So with the Hydra, I'm wondering if they're going the Abyssal Hydra, which I don't know if that's actually a thing in D&D. I haven't looked it up, but there is a false Hydra, and I'm wondering if that's what they're alluding to, which would be a really cool big bad because it is another game ender for
Mm-hmm.
D&D. Very cool one though. But yeah, that's basically all I had to wrap up with that. I'm not going to go too deep into Tiamat and Bahamut's lore because that we could be here for hours.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you all for second round listening to another installment of the Two Raccoons in a Trench Coat podcast. If you want to reach out to us in any way, go ahead and leave a comment down below or shoot us an email over at tworaccoonspodcast@gmail.com. That's with 2 C's, 2 O's, no spaces. Tony, where can we find you at?
You could find me on Instagram at Tony DLO. That's yeah, pretty much on all platforms. Sorry, Tony
Perfect.
DLO.
All right. With that, I've been some guy with a hat. Thanks again for joining us.
Yes, no problem. Thanks for having me. Sorry it took so long.
No, it's all good. I'm glad it finally worked out. Um,
Yes.
All right, I think it's time for some chicken nuggets. Bye, everybody.
See you later. Remember, don't get Vecnud or whatever. I don't even know if that works. Whatever. It's
That's a
staying in.
that's
I
a
don't
verb
care.
now. That's a verb now. It's a thing.
All right. See y'all.